All right. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, the best place for hardworking and ambitious millennial professionals to gain career clarity and to find their career path. Now, in today's video, I'm going to focus on the topic of career clarity in your 30s and specifically focus on men, right? Because I mean, obviously, I'm a guy, and it's something that's closer to my heart because I really understand the journey of just being a guy and knowing how confusing it could be to navigate the career journey. One of the things that really occurred to me recently is with COVID and everything, and with the fact that we have to navigate education, and I've got 3 kids, and the fact that some of them have to we have to juggle a lot of things, whether it's going to school or homeschooling or focusing on work, and the amount of time that we can really put in the family. These are things that it's going to be an eternal struggle. It's going to be an eternal battle as a father. And so it's just things that I'm thinking about. My kids are probably on average older than people, than the average person in their 30s, because I started to have kids early, but they really factor into my career journey. So that's why this topic's really close to my heart. Now, I want to get to the let's just dive right into the meat of it, right? In terms of finding your career path in your 30s for a man, one of the first things that I think is a relevant topic is to really figure out what your priorities are at that point in time of life, right? And it's that, it's almost like at a crossroads, because, after clocking a good 5 to 10 years into your career, you kind of have an idea of what work life is like. You've done adulting for a while, right? And what happens is, you start realizing, okay, people have moved on to different life stages. Some people have really doubled down on working on their career and just, focus on making progress in that respect. Others, on the other hand, have, maybe a job hop for a bit, or maybe shifted around and moved around to different industries and tried different things out. But at a certain point, you kind of decide, like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And I would say typically there are 2 pathways from here. The first pathway is deciding on whether you want to do leadership, right? Is leadership your thing? Is managing people your thing? And there's always a difference between a leader and a manager, right? A leader is more of an entrepreneurial, open-minded. You're trailblazing. You're trying to innovate and create new things. That's a typical definition. Another definition would be being a manager, where you're keeping KPIs, keeping track of people, and making sure they're on task and so on. Do you like dealing with people, basically, right? And if that's your thing, then there's really that option of really doubling down on the career path of being a leader and working with people. Now, there's another career path. There's actually another path. And the other path is becoming a specialist. And when I say becoming a specialist, it's like, do you love just quietly doing your work and just focusing on the task at hand? It doesn't really give you flow, right? And if it does, then that's another option. Now, when you come to that point, you really need to decide on which path you want to take, because it's got a lot to do with your personality, and I'll dive into that in a second. But it's also got to do with the organizational structure. So, for example, I come from a background in education, so I'm going to speak more to education. One of the things that you get to decide is, do you want to progress in your career to become a department head, right? That's kind of like one of the first steps, on the next rung of educational leadership. Do you want to be a department head? Do you want to lead something, right? Another path is, do you want to become a specialist? Do you want to double down on producing curriculum, or do you want to become an expert in some expert curriculum, for example, AP or IB, right? And those would be 2 career paths. It depends on the school that you're at, whether there's such an availability. It depends on your school board. It depends on whether you're in public or private school. Now, if you look into high tech, for example, in technology, like, some companies will allow for specialist roles, but some companies may not have specialist roles. And really, the only option from the next rung up is to become a leader. And not everyone likes to deal with people, right? When I work with my clients, a lot of times when they work through the personality and also their career statement and figuring out what they want to do, a lot of them say, like, you know what, I don't like to deal with people. I like to minimize my social responsibilities. At least I don't want to handle people. I don't mind talking to people. I don't mind socializing, but I really don't want to manage people. That's really outside my comfort zone. It's really something I don't want to do. And so really at you're in your 30s, figuring out that path is critical, right? And you got to also align that to your personal life. Do you really want to invest the time on, for example, building a family? That is actually a consideration for many people in their 30s at that life stage. Is like family or not, right? Marriage or not, kids or not. These are all like, or maybe like have a pet instead, right? These are all considerations when you hit that stage, and you got to really align that with your career and make it work. So that's the first thing I would say is a major consideration. Now, after deciding on that, the next thing you want to decide and really think about is what kind of soft skills you want to develop in alignment to that. So, for example, if you decide about, you know what, I don't mind leading people, I don't mind working on leadership, but I actually lean towards being introverted, or maybe I'm higher in the need for stability, and I really need to figure out ways to control my stress and anxiety. Like on fair weather days, working with people is great, but on rough days, it may be a problem, right? Stress may get to me. So you need to figure out the soft skills, and soft skills is defined by either people skills or self-management skills. If it comes to people skills, communication would help. Or learning how to present yourself, or learning how to compose yourself. These things would all help. If it comes to self-management, maybe you want to, turn towards fitness, or turn towards meditation, or turn towards journaling, or other ways to handle the stress, handle the cortisol that will build up on a day-to-day basis that will, lead to anxious situations. So finding the soft skills, having the objective in mind, and then finding the soft skills to support that so that you can reach that objective is essential to the developmental process and to the career developmental process, right? And for you to really have that understanding of whether the soft skills, how you should position yourself in terms of the soft skills, the next step I would say is really figure out your personality, because personality, a lot of it is nature, right? Most of it is nature. Of course, nurture and your post, what we call like pre-wired is nature, and post-wired is nurture, right? So after you were born, you're given your experiences, given your social situations, given the lessons you've learned and people that have influenced you, or the books you've read and the trainings that you've had. What are some, but at the end of the day, your internal wiring is your nature, is your personality. And really figuring that out and understanding, okay, my personality is XYZ. I need to make sure that I cover my bases with the right soft skills. So if you are naturally introverted, then learning social skills would help. If you're naturally extroverted, then learning how to really sit down and focus would also help, right? And right now I see some people in the chat, in the group. If if you're new here, just drop by, say hello. I want to make sure you're hearing me. So hello, you guys. I see you guys. You're here. But now talking about personality and aligning that with the soft skills that you need to develop to your leader, to become a leader, right? So like I said, there's really two paths. Either you want to become a specialist or you want to become a leader. And at some point in time in your life, you need to make that choice. If you're a generalist, and I'll be very frank, right? With generalists, you don't really, people pay for specialists. Think about a doctor, right? When you hire a doctor, hey Justin, when you hire a doctor, what happens is, for a general doctor, they get paid good money. But who gets paid the big bucks in any field? It would be the brain surgeon, right? It'll be the specialist. It'll be the eye doctor or whatever, right? No one pays for a generalist. Well, you get paid, but you don't get paid well. People pay for specialists. And so you got to think about that in terms of your career development. Do you want to be a generalist or do you want to be a specialist? And if you want to be a specialist, there's two types, right? There's really the leader specialist, and there's the specialist who is really good at that one subject matter, that one topic that you can really double down on. And so essentially when it comes to when it comes to your career development, you got to figure out which path you want. And that depends on your soft skills, that depends on your personality, and how you align your soft skills and personality and make it all work together. Now, the last and final step I would say in this process that is essential is to really hone in on a career statement. And I say this in pretty much in a lot of my videos, a career statement is the key, because a career statement is a process where when you're writing that career statement, is a process where you sit down and really hone in on what exactly you want. So, for example, if you decide that, hey, for my career, I want to work independently. I don't want to be a leader. I want to focus on data and things. I don't want to focus really on people and like, broad abstract ideas. I want practical stuff. And I want to stay in Toronto. I live in Toronto, so I'm just going to say Toronto. I want to stay in XYZ city. I want to have a good work-life balance, and I want to have a 40-hour work week and no more than that, right? And you can also write in your career statement, I like to stay, I like to, have a lot of travel, or I like to not have any travel at all. So by writing everything down into your career statement, you actually have an objective in mind where it's like, okay, this is me. This is the type of work that I like. And then what you do after that is you go out and you find work that aligns to that. Now, when I say find work, when you look at like a broad field, a career, for example, in education, right? I love to talk about education because that's really my own background. But when you look into education, when you say a teacher, there are a lot of different types of teachers, right? There's elementary school teachers. You deal with rugrats and they're running around screaming and they're going to stress you out, a lot of stimuli. There are also teachers in higher education, like, a community college is also teaching. And there's also teaching in, in para-school, para-education organizations. So like tutoring or like freelancing or maybe even speaking, right? These are all education-related stuff. And so even when you talk about, so when you write your career statement and say, I like these characteristics and I want to look at a specific field, and you look at that specific field, what's that work out there? And so with that career statement, the next thing you need to do is to go out and talk to people. And when I say go out and talk to people, people do not like to give give others access to their network if they don't know what you're about. So for example, if you walk up to a person like, hey, I'm looking for a job and I'm willing to do anything, literally anything. I just want to find something that I love. That person will not give you access to their network. They will not give you anything because them vouching for you in their network is basically going to bat for you. And if they do not know you're going to stick around, if you decide to hop on a job that they referred you into and then you leave within like 3 months, that's going to look terrible on them. They just burned their bridges there. So no one's going to go vouch for you. No one's going to go at bat for you if they don't know exactly what you want. And that's where the career statement comes in. Because when you have a career statement, you're like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And this is exactly what I want in my career. And I don't want to deal with people. I want to focus and double down on specialization. I don't mind talking to people, but I don't want to lead a team. I want to focus on XYZ subject. Is there anything in your field, in your network that has something like that? At that point, they're willing to like, hey, you know what? I know someone who has a posting like that. Or based on your description, there's something in my field that resembles that. And with that, you can actually go, they can then, they're much more willing at that point to refer you into that position or talk to the right people so that you actually get access into that position. And that's why career clarity in your 30s for men is so important, right? You gotta really have that objective in mind. In your 30s, you would have clocked a good 5 to 10 years in your life in working. You don't want to be a generalist anymore because if you're a generalist, you're going to stay at the bottom rungs forever. And your next step in your progression would either be a leader or a specialist. And it depends on your organization. Does your organization facilitate that? Is there even that option to become a specialist, right? Some organizations, the next role up is going to be a manager, and you got to manage people. And if you don't want to do that, then get out. Like seriously, get out and find a company that will allow you to be a manager. I'm sorry, not a manager, to be a specialist, right? And find something that's out there because that's basically the organizational limit. Now, if the organization is willing to play around with your expertise and go ahead of that, then there's really room for negotiation. Then yeah, consider staying. But otherwise, if you do that career statement and you've gained clarity and you realize like, hey, you know what, I don't want to do this, then get out, right? If there's any questions that you have regarding this process, just let me know in the chat below. I really appreciate questions. It always stimulates interesting conversation. Or it doesn't have to be about career clarity for men in their 30s. It could be about anything really. So feel free to drop down any questions that you may have. So basically the steps are quite simple, right? To sum everything up. You have to decide what you want in your life at your life stage. Do you want in terms of your starting a family, in terms of maybe having kids, or maybe having a pet, or maybe going to somewhere in your life, like traveling or trying different things in your life. And then also have alignment in terms of what you want and what your career is giving you. Afterwards, you decide in terms of your career development. Do you want to focus on becoming a specialist, or you want to focus on becoming a leader? And a generalist, like I said, no offense to generalists, you can be a generalist if you want, but it's very difficult to advance. The next part is whatever soft skills you want to develop to make sure that it's aligned to your career, right? To your whatever direction you decide. And then you take it, and then you make sure you have a good understanding of your personality so that you can leverage its strengths and cover its blind spots. So if you're very introverted and you love to do specialist things and just really double down and hone in on something and become a master of it, then use that to your strength, right? But make sure that you're not going to apply for a manager position, because that's going to make you miserable. I've lost count of the amount of people I've seen who thinks, I'm going to become a manager and I'm going to be happy. And in fact, once you become a manager, you end up doing stuff that makes you miserable. And at the end, and that burns you out, and then you start hating your job, which you once upon a time loved. And and then you're washed out and you're burnt out, and you gotta go start from square one. You start questioning whether the meaning of life, and whether what you do is what you love, and whether you want to keep doing it, right? So personality matters, soft skills matters, and it has to be aligned to your objective. And the best way to figure out that objective is to write that career statement and find a job that matches that career statement, because the career statement is you, right? That doesn't really change. If you're an introvert, and what research shows in terms of personality science is that personality doesn't really shift throughout your lifetime. So if you are born in an introvert, in terms of rank order, right, you're going to stay an introvert relative to everyone else. You can learn soft skills, you can learn social skills, right? And you could make that introvert battery more efficient so that you can socialize with people. Just like Bill Gates figured out how to socialize with people. He is a very awkward introvert, but he figured it out, right? Because being a leader and being forced in that position, he figured it out on how to be extroverted when he needs to be, right? Or at least be warm. And so having an understanding of that is essential. So if you're interested in learning more about careers, personality, I would highly recommend you to take that free Big 5 personality test that I have in the details below. I don't know if I put it there right now, but it'll be there later on, right? You can take a free Big 5 personality traits test in the links below. You can also join my Facebook group called Career Change Advice, where you can ask me questions there. You can engage with other people who are interested in making their careers work for them rather than the other way around. And you could also attend a free training that I have on finding your dream career, and it's all in the links below. There's also a guide. Basically, I got a lot of free resources that you can check out. Or you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message, and I'll be glad to chat there as well. Or you can just chat here right now, because the chat box is open. So right now, that's all I have for today in terms of finding your career. You're gaining that career clarity for men in their 30s. If you got any other questions, feel free to drop it in right now. I'm all ears to what's there. I mean, what questions you have. I keep looking at that corner because that's where the chat box is. Actually, I'll move it over here so it's all right. And if there's no questions, I go live every week at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and there's always going to be I'm always planning to drop value in terms of the content, in terms of advice on how to find your dream career, on how to navigate your career. So feel free to drop by every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And if you got any questions, also feel free to drop them in. I'm always open to questions. And so hope to see you next week. Thanks for tuning in today. And take care, guys. Okay. Justin just asked a question. Awesome. I was just about to leave, but I am glad that you asked the question. So let me add to broadcast, right? So Justin asked, I'm an introvert and I graduated last year in design for animation. I'm 30, but I'm not sure if it's right for me. I got your question, Justin. So in terms of your question, there's several things when you talk about animation, right? Now, do you like animation as a skill that you use on a daily basis? No worries, Justin. But if you just answer this question, do you actually like doing animation? Like if you can get paid to do animation, do you like doing it? So I think there's a bit of lag in terms of my broadcast and your answer, so we'll try to work around that. All right. And I'll keep talking while you answer that question, all right? Because the fact of the matter is sometimes there's many dimensions when you look at work. There's, the career, there's the content, so you like it in a vacuum. Awesome. So there's a lot of things when it comes to career satisfaction. There's the people around you. There's the workplace culture. Are you, and you graduated, so are you working right now? Are you working a job right now in animation? That's my next question. There's the workplace culture, there's the people around you, there's the job content. So some people who do animation, animation spans from doing crazy CG stuff for Pixar to editing. Like just all you do is edit clouds manually on a daily basis. That's what my brother-in-law did for a while in China when he did animation for a while. All he did was pixelate fog and clouds, and it drove him crazy, right? That's all he did in his in his animation lab, and so he decided to quit and became a pilot, right? And so even within animation, there are many different aspects. Not at the moment, no, not working in the industry, right? So if you're not working in the industry at the moment, then what I would highly recommend you to do is to write that career statement, right? So you've already given me some hints. You've already said you like animation as in a vacuum in itself. You are introverted. And that's one thing, so I assume there's some assumptions here that you probably don't like to deal with people too much, and you don't want to be at least you don't want to be socializing all the time. You want to be working on animation. Write down some other traits that you like to do. And think about your past work experiences when you deal with people and so on. So in that career statement, write out what do you like, what you don't like. And one of the best ways to do that is actually through self-journaling. And when I say self-journaling, what you do is basically you sit down and you write out in your journal what is it that you like, what is it that you don't like, what's your heaven situation. If you are working and you are in a heavenly situation, everything's working perfectly for you. In a perfect world, what would work look like for you? And then write out a hell situation. In the worst case scenario, what would work look like for you? Write that out. And then compare and contrast the two. Then you will be able to write a career statement and then of course take the personality test that I have in the details below. But after you map that out, you will know, okay, my personality is like this, right? If you're very open-minded versus, if you're not as open-minded, you might always like, a fast-changing animation world where there's always new technology and new things to explore. But if you like to try it and true, maybe you want, and you're more introverted, then maybe you want a more consistent and stable animation gig that's not always working on updating and chasing the latest and greatest, right? But anyways, for the career statement, you then want to map out the heaven situation, the hell situation, and write it out, map it out. Because based on that, you will then be able to go and network and talk to people at different companies that you're interested in. So for example, if you're interested in Ubisoft, right? There's a Ubisoft in Toronto, and I'm in Toronto. I'm assuming you're in Toronto. I mean, where are you? But wherever in the world you are, reach out to animation company, give them and talk to people inside the entry level position that you're looking into getting, and then ask them, is there anything at your company that resembles this on my career statement? Right? And just network with people, talk to people. It's so easy to do that on LinkedIn. It's so easy to do that on Twitter nowadays, because when you do that, you go and reach out to people. They're actually insiders in the industry, and they'll be able to tell you what is there in the industry, right? So yeah, basically write down the perfect work life, write down the worst career life. You're in Mississauga. Awesome. Yeah, so write down your perfect work life. What's the heaven situation for you? And don't show them that statement, but pick out the keywords in there. So working alone, or working in a small team, focusing on developing new methods in animation, or perhaps using XYZ software. Or even within animation, there are many aspects to it, right? There's rendering. I mean, there's rendering that I don't know too much about animation, but I'm from my limited understanding, there's like the post-production rendering stuff. There's the stuff in animation where you are dealing with the joints, the sticks and stones of the body, of the anatomy, or the parts of the animation. So there are different aspects of it. Tell people what you like to do. What is the work culture that you like? I mean, some people like a very systematic progress kind of environment. Some people like a startup environment where everyone's like chill and you wear khakis and slippers to work, right? So everyone's got a different work culture preference. So figure out what that is, figure out what your values are, and then network based, giving them, this is what I'm looking for. Is there something in your industry or in your network that resembles that? And if so, rendering and rigging, etc. Yeah. So reach out to them, show them those different aspects of work that you like, and then see if there's anything to come out of it. Now, this is the important part about networking, right? And people are terrified of networking, especially if you're introverted. It's easier to do it on LinkedIn because it's all online and stuff. But or maybe you can do. Aren't there platforms for animation that you can reach out to people on, right, specific to animation? But anyways, when you reach out to people, a lot of times people are like, I'm going to reach out to 2 to 3 people and talk to them. Let me tell you, the cold network acceptance rate of talking to people is approximately 15% on a good day, right? It's usually around 10%. Even when I cold outreach to people on LinkedIn, my acceptance rate is, it depends on who it is, but typically it's around 18%. And so when you reach out to people, reach out to 50. Not even kidding, right? Reach out to 50 people. Yeah, I think there are. Yep. So reach out to 50 people, and if 5 people answer you, you're golden. And check out, I have a playlist called Informational Interviews. Basically, it's a playlist on informational interviews. Just search on YouTube, Dr. John Tam, Informational Interviews. Look for that playlist. And essentially what you do is you go and you conduct informational interviews and talk to them and see if there's anything within that industry that is specifically focused on what you love to do. And after you get one person to talk to you, don't take too much of your time. Take like only 20 minutes, right? And tell them at the get-go, I want to talk to you for just 20 minutes. I'm willing to buy coffee or whatever, right? And now it's kind of harder because it's COVID. But when you talk to them, you then show them your career statement. And then what happens after that is at the very end of the interview, it's like, hey, this was great, and I love having a conversation with you. Is there anybody that you admire in your company or anybody that you admire within a network relevant to what I'm looking for that you can connect me to, right? And with that, since you only took 20 minutes of your time, if you took like an hour of your time in that conversation, and seriously, only take 20 minutes, because if you take more than what you can, if you take 1 hour of your time, they're gonna be like, yo, you just took a ask of like 1 hour, and now you're trying to get another referral. It's just too much. So just get 20 minutes, ask them for the next person, you connect to them, you connect to the next person, and then you will snowball that network. Because if one person is willing to refer you and you ask them for another referral, they're willing to, that's basically a referral snowball. And over time, what happens is you will have a whole bunch of people connected to you on LinkedIn, right? I'm assuming you use LinkedIn. You'll have a whole bunch of people connected to you on LinkedIn who you can talk to, who perceives you as an industry insider. You can send them stuff. You can, they know what you're looking for, so that in the future, if something opens up, they're willing to, call you in, and that, and you get your foot in the industry by doing this, right? And you just graduated, so it's a good time to do this, especially now it's like everyone's work from home. They've got more freedom in terms of their time. They can offer you more, they can hop on a quick Zoom call for 20 minutes, send them coffee. My friend's got a website called Coffee's on Me, by Ray Kanani at Intellex, and basically you can send them a free coffee and that they can get on Starbucks in their own time. But basically, network, talk to them, show them your career statement. This is what I'm looking for. And if there's something that they can give you within their network, then hop on the next call. And through this career exploration process, you start realizing there are things that are possible, there are things that are not possible, there are options that are available or options that are not available, and then you just figure out what is possible, and then you go for that, right? Once you're inside the industry, it's so much easier to navigate because you are always plan for your next step, right? So one of the things that happens when people start working a job, they're like, oh yeah, I'm in it, I love doing what I'm doing, but a gig is never permanent. You are always, the research shows on the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the U.S., right? The average person is gonna average 12 to 15 careers in their life, right? Careers, not jobs. Each career stop, you're gonna have 3 to 5 jobs at any, and so when you split that up, you're gonna have 30 something to 40 something jobs across your lifetime in different careers. So when you're in that career and you just got started, you get your foot in the industry, it's not going to be a perfect job. There's no such thing as a perfect job in the world. The only thing you can do is maximize the parts you like and minimize the parts you hate, right? And that's what you want to do. So when you are working in that regard, and let me know if I'm not making any sense right now, right? If I'm making sense, also let me know so I don't have to keep rambling about that because you got the point. But when you are in that industry, plan for your next step, right? Where do I want to do next? So what I did when in my, that's unbelievable, 12? What do you mean unbelievable 12? So what I did when I first entered my teaching career, I started out as a teacher. My first year, I went in there, I decided I'm going to be a department head in my third year, right? Because I knew it was possible. It's been done in my school, the private school that I worked at. So I told my department head, hey, I want to be a department head in a few years' time. I know I'm young, but that's kind of my goal. Everyone knows your goal. Yeah, thanks. Okay, good. We're good. So once you enter that line of work, you start talking to the people around and you let them know what is it your next objective is. And this is done during performance reviews. There's annual reviews, but what you really want to do is ask for quarterly reviews. 12 careers in a person's life. And the crazy part is this, and this is especially in your industry, right? What's happening in your industry is AI and automation is going to replace so much of the stuff. And I don't know, have you seen the website of this person does not exist or this cat does not exist? Right? They're able to use machine learning and the GANs process to create new faces, to create new things. And basically, it's good, you add 5G on top of that, and it's a global labor market. There's people in India that's competing for your jobs here. What that's and a lot of stuff is gonna become on the web. So hardware no longer becomes a problem. You just need access to the internet. You're gonna be hustling against people around the world, and it's gonna get increasingly tough. But that's another topic for another time. But essentially, what you want to do is once you get into that job, set your next objective. Because you have an idea what you want to do, right? With your career statement, you know exactly how you want your career to progress in the next 5 to 10 years. So just say you enter that position, you're like, based on my career statement, I want to, definitely check it out. And there's some really messed up cats. I'm not even kidding. This cat does not exist. It creates there's the database on, hey Ahmed, what are jobs of the future? I'll get to that in a second, all right? Sounds like an interesting topic that you guys are interested in. Basically with a career statement, you enter that line of work, show your boss or the person who reviews your performance during the annual or quarterly reviews. It's hey, I want to, advance into this. I want to explore into this. That's how I want my career to develop. Because when you tell them that this is what you want to do and you're doing a good job in what you're doing, they want to retain you, right? Retention is a huge problem for employers. They're terrified. The retention rate for an average person is approximately 40% right now. The turnover rate is 40%. So that means almost half the people who enter a job within 6 months, they'll leave. And that's why employers want people to stick around, especially human capital is such a big asset nowadays. So you walk into that new job, you have a career statement, you know exactly what you want. If you don't know what a career statement is, go back and check out the replays. I'm not going to talk about it again. But you show them what you want, they'll be able to help you and give you the steps to progress in that development. And that way, you'll always stay in a situation where you are being successful. You are going to be in a good place because they're going to keep making sure that you're happy as well. And of course, at the same time, as you're developing, you're going to be happier as well. So that's kind of how you structure your career. in terms of your development. Now, what are the jobs of the future? Great question, Ahmed. And one of the jobs in the future is I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because no one knows. There's several things that we know. Definitely in the next 5 to 10 years, some major advancements. Number one, AI and machine learning is obviously huge. But when you think about AI and machine learning, it's basically regression. I don't know if you guys know too much about data science, but AI based. Yeah, I remember 30 years. Yeah, 30 years ago, people would stay at a job for 10 years. Right? It's no longer the case now. Turnover is the new norm. Check out my video on job hopping. Like, I talk about job hopping a lot. I have a huge playlist on that. But job hopping in your 20s is good. Job hopping in your 30s is not good. So be aware of that. Okay, so jobs of the future. AI automation is obviously huge. Data science. But it's basically regression on crack, right? Like, you're able to run crazy regressions. You're able to have a lot of big data to inform your decisions. So it's not just about random information, a sample set that is so small that you don't even know is effective or not. What happens is the sample set is like the whole freaking internet. And that's the whole thing with Cambridge Analytica several years ago with Facebook, right? They were running the big 5 personality traits, predicting behavior of people who are clicking different ads on Facebook, and that data was being sold to third parties. And essentially, that's actually the future. A lot of people are actually working with big 5 personality traits right now. They're not working with MBTI. They're not working with StrengthsFinder because big 5 personality traits is the gold standard. And what's happening is that they're checking out how people behave online, and then they run regressions on it. So that's amazing for marketing. That's amazing for politics, right? Because people want to know how to position themselves in terms of their platform. That's amazing for sales. That's amazing for media consumption. That's amazing for animation, right? Whether people like stuff or not. And so that is one aspect. Another aspect is biotech. Biotech is another major frontier in the future because, even look at the COVID stuff that's coming out right now, right? The vaccines. Moderna is based on mRNA research, and that's based on machine learning sequencing on looking at people's genomes. And so that is another major development in terms of science, right? That's a major growth area. But at the end of the day, there's two things that you need to learn. There's the hard technical skills, and the hard technical skills you need to categorize into two types. There's the rote hard skills, and there is the complex hard skills. Rote hard skills is basically taking a hammer, boom, boom, move to the next thing. Assembly line stuff, right? Back 100 years ago with the Ford assembly line. The complex hard skills are the things like problem solving, like creatively using applications of biotech and machine learning. These are just tools at the end of the day. Whether you're in animation, whether you're in whatever field you're in. Ahmed, what field are you in? Whatever field you're in, these are just tools in the future, and you need to know how to creatively use those tools to your advantage. And so that's one aspect. Another aspect that you really want to develop are the soft skills, and the soft skills that are going to be at a premium are the people skills, are the social skills, are the management skills, and project management and self-management. These are all going to be huge, especially communication. So think about it this way: when a lot of the rote labor, right? A lot of the very basic hammering stuff is done by machines and done by automation. What really is left for humans to do is creativity and human stuff, which is communication, which is sales, which is talking to people or tapping into what humans like, and so on. If you guys got any questions about careers or the future, work, whatever, just drop it in the Q&A. I'll be glad to answer, right? But basically, hard skills, which are complex hard skills, and soft skills, which are people skills, creativity, and communication skills, those are going to be huge in the future. And we got to think about it in this way. When you're working in the future, you're not working to a title, right? Go with skills. Ignore titles. And what do you mean by that? Like, think about director. What is that? Like director of operations. So let's be a little bit specific. Director of operations. What does that even mean? It means something different at every company. It means something different. And so when you write on your resume, I'm a director of operations, and you submit it to someone, and then that company reviews is like, director of operations. Okay, what does that mean? The recruiter, the hiring manager would not know what that means. And therefore, that's why when you sell in the future, you're selling skills. And I always have this book on my table called To Sell is Human by Dan Pink. Because at the end of the day, all of us are constantly selling ourselves. We are all essentially working for ourselves, right? You can work for a company, you can work for a grand vision, but at the end of the day, when you retire, it's you, yourself, and you, right? And so you want to sell skills. You want to be doing skills that you love. So if Justin, what you love is animation, right? If you love rigging, if that's your thing, if rigging is your jam, you want to be consistently doing rigging in the future. Even if AI and automation may take over parts of rigging, we have something called Jevon's paradox. And what Jevon's paradox is, and I actually created a LinkedIn post about that recently. Twitter post. What Jevon's paradox is that every time there's new technology that wipes out old industries, it actually increases consumption so that there's so many more new jobs that are being created. So for example, the printing press. People used to say the printing press is going to destroy, that's 500 years ago. 500 years ago, the printing press was supposed to wipe out humankind. Ahmed, I got your questions. Chris, what's up? I'll answer your question in a second. So back in the day, the printing press was supposed to wipe out the industry and so on. But what that actually created is it created more books, which means libraries, which means people selling books, which means people shipping books. And as a result of one technology that was supposed to end many industries, and it did end some industries, it ended the scribing industry, the people who sit down and wrote and copied those books. It got rid of that industry. But it created so many more jobs as a result. And that's how we should think about this in the future. When you're thinking about your career, don't worry about technology coming out and wiping stuff out. Focus on the skills that you love doing and double down on those, and double down on hard, complex skills and soft, human, and creative skills. All right. So next question, I'm gonna answer Chris's question right now. What's up, Chris? Top books or articles you recommend for those changing careers in their 30s from scratch without much to show for in their networks? I would appreciate it, Ahmed. I would actually say, in terms of your career, there's some books out there, but at the end of the day, like I said, I said this at the beginning of this video, what is essential is to create a career statement and really begin with the objective in mind. What do you like? And then find a job that aligns to you. It's always easier to align a job to you, but not change yourself for a job. But that's what makes people miserable. In terms of your network, the career statement also helps your network, because what happens is you show your network your career statement, and they're able to help you find your way into the next step, right? And that's really what you want to do. People are not willing, and I said this at the beginning, people are not willing to open up their networks to you unless they know you know what you want, because they're not going to go to bat for you if you just quit the job that they referred you into 6 months from now, right? That actually looks terrible on their end. So no one's willing to go to bat for that. So in terms of top books or articles you recommend, I want to say definitely check out the other videos in my channel. My channel is all about career clarity, career crossroads, and finding a career path. Every career coach, and here's something that you guys need to know. When you talk of career coaches, when you look at career coaches online, there's different specialties. Some career coaches focuses on resumes. Some career coaches focuses on LinkedIn. Some people focus on branding and interview and optimization. My specialty is focusing on helping people find their career path, find what they love, and stay doing what they love for the rest of their life, right? I think that's the most fundamental aspect of work, and especially for men. And I understand there's different choices that people make in terms of their family structure and in terms of their decision on who's going to be the lead parent and so on. But if you're in your 30s and you're a guy and you really, at this point in time of life, you really want to stop job hopping. I talk about it in my job hopping videos, where essentially job hopping is acceptable in your 20s, but when you're in your 30s, job hopping is definitely not a good idea, because the impression is that by the time you're in your 30s, you want to have that stability. And if you keep job hopping beyond your 30s, what's to stop you from job hopping into your 40s? And by the time in your 40s, where you're kind of at your mature career stage, you're still job hopping, you're going to be in a very tough situation. Now, some people get out of it. Don't get me wrong, but with a lot more career planning and with a career statement in mind, with the objective in mind, you're going to be much better for it, right? And so at the end of the day, check out my videos. I talk a lot about career clarity, career crossroads. That's the whole focus of the channel. I talk about other stuff too. Like once in a while, I made a Mulan review, which apparently went viral, 50,000 views. But, so I talk about that kind of stuff, but I always tie it back to satisfaction, to your personality. And that's really, one of the things that, anchors everything. Your personality is huge. Take a free personality test in the details below. I have one there on the Big 5 personality traits. Literally very quick, high level, but it gets the job done. All right. So I hope that answers your questions. Ahmed, back to your question. Are you still around? Let me know. Because I can't see really. I see people seeing, but I don't know who's watching. So how should you go about in selecting your dream career? Okay, I can't answer everything right now, but let's get with Ahmed's question right now. Studied chemical engineering, worked in oil and gas, but lost my job and don't intend to work. What advice would you give someone thinking about career change? Yeah, career change. Definitely focus on skills. Whatever key skills you want. Okay, so career statement, I talked about that a lot. I'm not going to keep talking about that. You can go back and watch a replay on this. I talked about it at the beginning. But with the objective in mind, what you love to do, you find a job that's aligned to that. And the types of job that you want to do are the ones that are constantly applying skills that put you in what we call a state of flow. Now, when you talk about flow, there is basically an x-axis and there's a y-axis, right? The x-axis is your skill level. The y-axis is the difficulty. You want to be in the best position in terms of the difficulty of a job and the skill level that you have. So if you are optimally in the top right corner in terms, you're constantly in a state of flow. The state of flow, you know what it feels like when you spend 3 hours doing something, but it literally feels like 30 minutes. That is the state of flow. Have anyone of you guys experienced that before? And if you have, that's exactly what you want to do constantly. Right? Be in a state of flow, and you want to find that. That will make you satisfied. Now, in terms of a job then, how do you constantly find a job that puts you in a state of flow? Well, that comes down to the career statement and all the networking that I talked about. And informational interviews for career exploration, search that term on my channel. You will find a playlist on informational interviews, which will break down exactly what you should do to find your dream career, right? And that's basically what my recommendation is. Network. And I talked about that with Justin earlier, so I'm not going to go and recap that. But network with a career statement. Have an idea what you want in mind, what you want in your personal life, what you want in your career. Align that, and you're going to be golden, right? Justin, I really want to stop general labor positions from agencies. Lol. God, I hate those. Yeah, we all hate them, right? Especially if you're in a creative industry. If the meaning of your life is like clicking, removing pixels and like doing manual rote labor work, that really is painful. But I'll be very honest. It's okay. Like sometimes some people are able to eat crap. I don't swear on this channel. Some people are able to eat crap, but there are some times that if you're willing to eat crap if you know what the objective is. If there's a next step and you're going to attain that, a lot of us are willing to sacrifice. I mean, everything about education is sacrifice. Delaying, instant gratification, right? If you agree on that, let me know, right? Like we can all handle crap, but the thing is, we need to know if it's worth it. If there is going to be a good outcome in the end, and that's why it's so important to, once again, that career statement. It's your anchor. Because when you walk into your performance review and you talk to your manager like, this is what I want in my career, can you guys give that to me, right? They don't want turnover. No one loves everyone hates turnover. Nowadays, of course, you gotta, there are some cutbacks, there are some furloughs because, given the situation of COVID, but eventually people will start rehiring. And that's why now is the best time to start positioning yourself to adapt. And so, in your case, if you want to stop general labor positions, I mean, sometimes at the entry level, that is what it is. And that's just the nature of work, right? And I'll be very honest. When you look at work, there's several levels. The lowest level is always grunt work. It's always hard skills. It's generally hard skills oriented. It's time consuming. It's rote work. It's the stuff that your bosses don't want to do. No boss want, like, that's why they're hiring you, right? Now, after you paid your dues and you've done the grunt work and you, great question, Ahmed, I'll get to that in a second. After you've done the grunt work, what happens next? If you want to progress in your career, it's all about soft skills, right? Soft skills is what gets you promoted. And here's the thing. Here's a real hard fact. When people start promoting others, it's all about trust because the stakes are higher. If they bring someone onto their core leadership team and you're going to mess everything up and you're going to like mess up the chemistry, no one wants you there. And that's where soft skills matters. And because soft skills, it's all about trust. You foster that trust. And a very, very simple soft skill, right? And I'll be straight up to you. And a lot of, I work with immigrants, and sometimes immigrants, they struggle with this. Like, one major soft skill problem would be odor. Like, no one talks about it. It's the elephant in the room. But if you don't put on deodorant, it's gonna be hard for people to trust you, straight up. Because like it's just so instinctual that they smell something bad, and it's like, why would I promote you if you smell bad? What if you're gonna see, a high ticket client and you smell like this? Or if you don't know how to take care of your hair, or if you can't communicate properly, if you can't display confidence in the Western style. I know some of us are immigrants here. Some of us aren't. I'm not white, right? I'm Asian. I speak fluent English, but I see others who don't speak fluent English and they go in a workplace and then they hit what we call a glass ceiling. A glass ceiling for immigrants. For Asians, it would be a bamboo ceiling. And that's one of the struggles that they have. And so that's why if you want to advance in your career, boost those soft skills, right? Hard skills get your foot through the door, but soft skills are what gets you promoted and gets you in a position where you get to choose. You get to choose what you want to do. Like I said at the very beginning of this video, if you want to choose your path, there's really two paths to choose from. You can choose to be a specialist, where you double down on something, and you can choose to be a leader/manager, where you start dealing with people and leading other people. You do less grunt work, you do more creative work and coordination work and people work, right? If you're introverted and you really love that subject matter, then consider being a specialist. But sometimes structurally, there's no way for you to advance accordingly. Because some companies simply don't have a specialist role, right? I know a lot of medium to small size companies, they don't have specialist roles. But next role is always a manager. And a lot of people hate being a manager. And that's actually a soul-sucking job, especially if you're introverted, especially if you don't like conflict and you don't like to boss people around. All right, Ahmed, what do you think about career tests? I'm going to grab some water right now. I talk fast. I know that too. Sorry, guys. Forgive me for drinking water. Career tests. Depends on which one. And when we talk about career tests, it depends whether it's psychometrically valid or not. Some tests are good, some tests are trash. Straight up. Like, what color is your umbrella? Seriously, don't even bother. Because, it's a good reflective tool, but they have what we call a Brenham-Forer effect, which is basically people love to, it just reaffirms confirmation bias. It will make you think what you think is right. So you want to avoid those tests. What I would actually recommend is a high level Big 5 personality traits test that really focuses on your career. I have a video about that specifically. I show in one of my videos, I talk about career change personality tests, right? Just search that term in my videos. I have a video that specifically focuses on career change assessment and what's a sign of a good one. And what's a sign of a good one? There are several characteristics. Number one is psychometrically valid and reliable. Valid means it's measuring what it's measuring, what it says it's measuring, and reliable is basically measured by test and retest, right? So if you take the test right now and you take it 6 months from now and you take it 2 years from now, it's gonna be in the same ballpark. You don't suddenly switch from being an introvert to an extrovert, which is the problem with MBTI, right? Any of you guys taken MBTI before? Let me know in the comments below. But MBTI is one of the more popular personality tests. It's been around since the 1930s, and people 90% of corporate America uses it. Fortune 500, 90% of the places have used it. The problem with MBTI is it puts people in personality types, And when you put people in personality types rather than different traits or different aspects of it, what you end up doing is you compartmentalize people and you say like, you are this type of person, you are an INTJ, so you are suited for XYZ, right? That actually is not those actually are not good things, because once you're put in a box, it's like, how do I get out of this box? And then you take the test later, 6 months from now, you're like, oh wait, my personality changed. What the heck, right? So was the first take accurate or not? Ahmed's taking an MBTI, yeah. So basically, if you take something like an MBTI, that's basically a bad idea because it puts you in types. So it depends on the personality traits. And so the best, some indicators is, is it a personality trait as in a spectrum, right? Whether, if there's a continuum, there's different gradients of the different personalities, that's generally a good sign because it's not putting people into boxes. It also shows, does it correlate with other tests that exist? So the personality test that I use, it compares to ACT's World of Work, which basically maps people out in terms of work. Do you like working with data or ideas? I mean, hard data, like numbers, versus like abstract ideas, or do you like working with people and things, right? That's basically two axes that's on that test. And that's a pretty good, reliable, and it's pretty well established, right? Because any form of work, you're dealing with a variety of those things. There's also the Holland hexagon. There's also multiple intelligences, like Howard Gardner at Harvard University. Multiple intelligences. Are you a kinesthetic thinker? Are you a visual thinker? Are you an auditory thinker? Right? Different people like to use different aspects of their human faculty. So does that career test account for all these things? Does it map across different personality traits? And so that's one thing that you want to make sure. And a lot of times lay people, they have a problem like with actually knowing the validity and the reliability of tests. And people market things because it's easy to understand, and a whole bunch of and this is the real kicker. A lot of times you take these personality tests, it's because the company is giving it to you so that you can become a better cog in their machine, right? That's why you want to work with a career coach. And I'm not saying this because I'm selling myself, but what happens is when you take a personality test because of a company, it's how do you fit with the rest of the company? But very rarely are these tests actually, what do you want in your life and how can you be satisfied with what you're doing, right? And that's why, a lot of people, even when they take these career tests with companies, it's actually quite tough. It's like it doesn't actually reflect who you are and what you want. So that's what I have to say about career tests. Some are good, some are bad. It depends on which one, and you really need to talk to an expert to figure out whether a career test is good or not. Back to Justin. Justin, a lot of the jobs that you're doing are too long and it's not related to my field. In that case, you really want to... the good thing about animation now is that there's so many creative pathways to advance in animation. And one of the things that you really want to consider, Justin, is building a portfolio that's for you. And I know it sounds like it may sound like a lot of work, but what happens over time is that when you create an online presence where your portfolio is there, where you accumulate things over time, what that does is it speaks to your body of work. And when you in the creative arts like industry, you'll always need to show your portfolio. And it's not only it's not only creative arts, whether you're in music, whether you're doing data analytics, whether you're in the hard sciences, you're always building a portfolio. There is literally no reason why you cannot have your own website nowadays where you put your stuff. In my case, I put a lot of my stuff on LinkedIn. I put a lot of stuff on my own website, drjohntam.com, because this will build into the future, right? And so that's one thing you want to think about. Not a lot of jobs related to your field, but you want to start building your portfolio so that you can transfer into the field that you want. And so one thing you want to look at is Fiverr or Upwork, right? There are a lot of side hustles that you can do nowadays to advance and build that portfolio. Even if you can't get what you want right now, you can build towards that. And it really starts with that career statement. What do you really want? Write it out. It will take about an hour, right? If you follow the instructions I put earlier in the video and go back and watch it, go back and watch it. I'm not going to repeat it. It's going to really help you with that. We're at the top of the hour. I'm going to answer the last question, and then it's going to be a wrap. I'm going to be here every week on Wednesday, 2 p.m. So next week, you guys can come back. I'm going to still be here, all right? Answering the last question. Sorry, one more question about career tests. Would you recommend StrengthsFinder test? It's quite famous. I would say no. I would not recommend StrengthsFinder. And the reason is because it falls under a typology situation, right? It puts you as like you're a good like it puts you into a box, just like the MBTI situation. And I know StrengthsFinder is available online. Like there's a book out there, like I think it's by Tom Rath. Tom Rath book, and then they upsell you on a test that you can take for like 50, $75 or something online. And then it tells you your strengths. But honestly, it's not very helpful because it puts you in the box. What I would actually recommend you to do is follow the instructions that I gave you at the very beginning of this video to write a career statement. What do you want in your life, right? And then, Tom Rath, awesome. So what do you want in your life? And then what career path do you want to take? Do you want to be a leader or a specialist, or do you want to be a generalist, right? And what soft skills you want to develop? Look at the personality test. What skills does the market want right now? And double down on those skills like a mother, because those skills are going to define you for your future, right? Like I said at one point in time in this video, your career is going to be, your lifetime, you're going to change 12 to 15 careers throughout your lifetime. And if that's the case, every career stop is about, you really don't want to focus on a title. Because think about it, just 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like 15 years ago, YouTuber was not a thing, right? 15 years ago, digital marketing just started. 20 years ago, Google just started. 20 years ago, I was still using Yahoo. I was using Alta Vista, right? Online gaming just started. I was playing my mom was picking up the phone and disconnecting me from StarCraft when I was 20 years ago. So we're talking about, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. So we're talking about jobs 10 years from now. You don't know what jobs are going to be available, right? The cell phone, it's like the cell phone right now, man, we just got started, right? Talk about chips and projection and holographs with 5G. Did you see this? Did you see those ads that Japan's running on 5G? Like projections of people, holographic images. The only problem with holographs right now is that there's nothing to project it on, right? But even that, we can probably find a workaround on that. So really, work in the future, focus on the skills and focus on hard skills that are complex. Don't focus on simple hard skills. Like a cashier job would be a simple hard skill. For a complex hard skill, something like plumbing. Plumbing, it's hard, man. You break down that wall, you look at the pipes behind it, it's hard. And it's problem solving, and you're liable. That's one of the things that robots can't be, right? They can't be liable. And that's one of the things that they haven't figured out with auto driving, right? With automatic cars. If you're driving around, you can't, who's going to be liable for it? Is Tesla going to pay for your accident? If they get a car accident because their software is messed up, or because of a glitch on 5G or whatever, that's the problem. So you want to find hard skills that are complex that you can double down on like a mother, and that's exactly what's going to put you in a successful situation. Also, soft skills that are people skills related, sales related, right? Whether it's selling an idea or selling yourself or just communication, that's huge. And creative skills, so stuff that robots can't do. And dude, they're catching up. Robots are catching up big time. So there are things that we used to think that they can't do, they're still able to do. But human stuff, like empathy, relationships, compassion, you can't emulate that. And so that's basically what I would say. That's how you can keep yourself in a successful position in the future for your career. Hope this session has been valuable. Thank you for a lot of you guys for sticking with me throughout. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to chatting with you guys next week. Bunch of free resources below. If you don't know what you want to do for your career, free personality tests below. You can join my group on career change advice on Facebook. There's a free training that I offer in the links below. I mentioned the personality test, right? So a bunch of free stuff. Next week, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, every Wednesday, I go live. I look forward to seeing you guys here. Thanks for coming in today, Ahmed, Chris, Justin, and whoever, some other people who were watching that have not left a comment. Leave a comment below if you enjoyed this. Give me a like. Please, the algorithm gods, and see you guys next week, all right? Take care.